Before we start the show, just a word from our sponsor, Undeniable Press. For all your screen printing needs, located in the Corktown district of Detroit, Michigan. If you ever need any t-shirts or any other little promo accessories, posters, or whatnot printed up for you, go to Undeniable Press. They're located, once again, in the Corktown district of Detroit, Michigan, and you can reach them at facebook.com/undeniablepressdetroit. And those same guys who do Undeniable Press also have a clothing line called 20 by 20 Apparel. It's very much wrestling themed, all sorts of nostalgic themes in regards to the history of wrestling. And you can go check out their clothing line at 20x20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. Now let's start the show.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it them all. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. Until I'm running out of breath, or tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, 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 goddammit, we fresh.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. This is episode number 87. And this is the third and final interview that I'm going to bring to you from my recent time at Wizard World Columbus. And my guest this time is Shawn Coss, co-owner of the Any Means Necessary clothing line and the artist for the webcomic Cyanide and Happiness. During our interview, we talked about being an independent artist and, more importantly, paying taxes, using humor to talk about uncomfortable subjects, using art to talk about mental health, his variety of projects, and all sorts of other actionable lessons coming from his life. So let's get into the interview with Shawn Coss, recorded live recently from Wizard World Columbus. Here with Shawn Coss at the Wizard World Columbus Comic-Con. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fucking fine. Can I swear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fucking fine. I feel good.
So when you're doing Comic-Cons like this, what are most of the conversations that you're having with people?
Depends. Typically, the last couple years, it's been about like, can I draw an abortion on your sketch or not? Or like, how, like, is Jesus fucking Hitler like offensive to you, or is that okay? Like, trying to figure out people's offensive line. That's usually a lot of the conversation, and then sometimes I'll have some serious conversations about my mental illness stuff, which gets into fucking depressing talks. But,
right.
We have a very wide variety. It's like a Jerry Springer sort of conversation pieces.
Right. Okay, you have this thing called Cyanide and Happiness. What is that?
It's some bullshit webcomic I've been a part of for like 9 years. We draw stick figures for a living, and we're pretty popular. The kids seem to like it. It's just stick figures in some weird situations, and it just seems to grab people's attention. I think it's because like it's so simple, and they're just like, oh, I can do that. Fuck these guys, I can do that. And then they're like, oh wait, I can't do that. The jokes aren't that there. So,
what's some of the themes of this?
Man, we got stuff from like, we have a survivalist named Ted Bear who pretty much eats himself to death and somehow escapes death all the time, like finding a bacon tree. We have like our own list of superheroes, like Star Spangled Bastard, Salmon Boy, Carrot Man. Like, it's a lot of just, we're making fun of everything around us and just putting them in stick figure positions, I guess.
How important is it to sort of use humor to like get your point across?
I feel like humor is a universal kind of emotion that everyone likes. Like no no one hates to laugh. No one's like, I don't want to fucking laugh. Like,
no, I don't want to laugh.
everyone, you feel good when you laugh. You feel
Right.
good when you're happy. And we can kind of touch on some sensitive subjects and throw a joke in there. So maybe something as heavy as abortion. Like, not everyone thinks abortion's funny. I think it's fucking funny. And I've had a miscarriage, or my wife has. So.
Oh, you have? Oh,
I did too, because apparently men can't have babies. But I sure fucking tried. But when you're hitting like subjects like that, and you throw in some jokes into it, like, you know, having a unicorn abort a bunch of babies, it kind of makes it not as heavy and helps some people cope with it better.
Right.
And sometimes we just like to offend the fuck out of someone.
Oh, of course. When, you know, how important is it, like, whether it's your boys that you're doing these, you know, projects with, or just other creatives, to have that sort of sense of community with everybody?
I think community is important. I think currently we're kind of in a dog-eat-dog kind of world. Like, everyone's trying to use each other as stepping stones. And I know me personally, I'm trying to, like, if I know an artist that I like, I'm a fan of, I'll try and help that person out if I can. You know, I have a friend named Tyler Lamp who is a great artist out in Salt Lake. He's getting kind of big, or getting into the conventions.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have the pull. So I was like, dude, come at my booth, sit right next to me, and get the overflow of the Cyanide and Happiness fans. And, you know, he ended up doing really well in Cleveland because they'd come see me, and they go, oh, wait, what's this stuff?
Right.
You know, just having that association. But I think community is important. You know, you need to have friends. You could do this on your own. It'd be fucking miserable.
Right. I'm not sure, like, where I heard it, but I know that there is scientific proof that, like, that sort of dog-eat-dog competition thing really doesn't exist. It was just a myth. And if you help each other, like, as I think the saying is, you know, high tide raises all the ships.
Right. Yeah. I've seen it firsthand on, like, certain artists like you want to work with, and they'll be like, nah, I'm good, because they think they're a social status higher than you.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, with me and, you know, Mike, who's my business partner, it's like, if we see an up-and-comer who's asking questions, we're like, dude, we'll give you all the information we have in hopes that it helps you.
Right.
You know, and just because we've been doing it for a while, we've been doing it for about 9-10 years now. So if someone's like, this is my first time doing a Comic-Con, well, let us help you. Here's all the information I have. It may work for you, it may not.
Right. How did you get into, you know, being a creator?
Well, with Cyanide and Happiness, funny story, I met Chris Wilson, the actual original creator, on MySpace.
Yeah.
He sends me a message going, hey, baby, how big's your dick? Did not say that. But it would be funnier if he did. He said he likes my artwork. He likes my creepier stuff. And he was like, dude, let's be friends. So we were friends for a couple years, and he go, hey, I want you to join Cyanide and Happiness. I'm like, fuck yeah, you know. And I had already given up on artwork as a career at that point. So he kind of refueled my fire for it.
Right.
But like my artwork and my stuff, I've always done it. I've always drawn for as long as I can remember. So that's never wavered. I just in the past 9 years, I've really focused on making it a career.
When you started sort of focusing on making it a career, you know, what was sort of the things you focused on? What were some of the lessons that you learned from others?
Well, I learned not to get fucked over by taxes. No one ever tells you, like, I don't think there's any artist or creator out here that will ever say, watch out for taxes or get a CPA. And I was like, why does no one ever talk about that part? Because my first year, I owed $18,000 in taxes. And like my first career year with no other income, I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do with that? So you had to learn real quick.
Well, it sounds like you did well for yourself that year.
I did, but I didn't save it. I didn't save any. So like, I bought my wife a new ring to make up for the shitty one I gave her when I was 18, or I was 20. No, I was 18, 19, and I was like, hey, I'll put this money on this ring, and then I talked to my CPA, and he goes, hey, you owe $18,000. I'm like, fuck me. Like, I'm going to Canada. So,
I'm running.
So that was something that I wish people would have told me.
Oh, that's definitely a good thing.
Taxes is a huge thing.
Taxes, yeah. A lot of rappers get fucked over on that.
50 Cent. He fucked himself. He's worth 50 cents now.
Like, half of the members of D12, like,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. The ones who aren't dead.
yeah, they got fucked over by taxes. But when, you know, how important is it? Like you were mentioning before, if anybody has any questions and stuff, how important is it to, you know, to be helpful to these newer creatives coming up? Because you definitely were in that place at one time.
I'll admit I definitely need reality checks because I have my audience has grown. You know, I get a lot of messages now. I get probably 40, 50 a day just on one social media platform. So I use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So I probably have close to 80 to 100 messages a day that I just can't answer them all. And some of them are artists who are like, how do I do this, this, and this? And some of it's just like, how do I develop my style? And I'm like, that's a heavy question to ask someone.
Yes.
Like, here's how I did it. When I was 10 years old and I had these people I liked, I adapted their style and started meshing all of it until it became my style. But it didn't come until I was 27 years old. I'm 35 now. So it took a long time for me to get that. And trying to tell someone that, hey, you're not going to be good. You're going to suck ass for years. And then one day you'll get good.
Right.
But I try to get better. I try to answer people's questions. Sometimes I'm just too swamped. You know, I'm with Cyanide and Happiness full time. I run a clothing line based out of Akron with my buddy Mike full time. I have 2 kids. I have a wife that I have to pretend I'm a good husband to. So I don't really have a lot of extra time to like answer questions. So what I try to do is like the podcast, or I'll do Instagram Live, Facebook Live, and I'll try and answer those questions then.
Right.
And hope that someone hears it.
To these sort of young creatives that would hit you up, or any other
Don't hit me up.
What sort of advice, would you have for them to the right way to hit you up? Or any creative?
I mean, honestly, the internet's the best way. Twitter, Instagram, the way they're doing it is the right way. It's just, I always say, if they have 50,000 fans or more, they may, as long as they didn't pay for their fans,
right?
They may not have the time to answer. Because when I initially started getting bigger and bigger, I was answering every message.
Right.
And I started timing myself. I'm like, I just spent 4 hours just answering email.
Right.
On one platform, not even my other ones. I'm like, how am I going to create anything if I'm still having to answer questions, So that's, you can always reach out. If I have that free moment, I'll fucking answer. Right. But for the most part, if I don't answer, it's not that I didn't read it. I read it, but it wasn't important enough for me to do it.
Right. I was just listening to this other podcast, the Jordan Harbinger Show.
Okay.
And they had, I forget who it is on there, but they're talking about when he was hitting up, authors or whatever, he was doing it all wrong for so many years. But then he he was learned a formula by one of the authors to basically keep the email to one specific thing, and that can be read in 45 seconds.
That's
like when someone's going to hit you up.
Right. I mean, usually when...
Start off small, basically.
Right. Like, whenever I respond, they usually get it within the first sentence. Because I can, like, in my Instagram, if it's someone I don't know, it goes in my, like, unsolicited or whatever. Right. And if they have the first thing saying, hey, how did you do this? I might be more inclined to read it. A lot of times they'll be like, I don't know if you'll read this. I probably won't read it. Kind of like, well, I don't know what the fuck you're about to ask me, so.
Right. I read something about you did this thing called the Inktober Illness series.
Yes.
And something dealing with mental health. What was that about?
So in 2016, I did I was asking for suggestions for Inktober. Inktober is that every year October, for one day about each day in October, you draw one piece of artwork.
Yeah.
And the year before, I did Nightmare Before Christmas. So I was asking suggestions, and one fan suggested mental illness. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Like, that sounds like a terrible idea. I want to move on. And I checked the next day, and it had like 100 likes. They're like, you got to do this. You got to do this. So I said, okay, I'll do a couple. So I'd never finished an Inktober series. So I did like 4 or 5, posted them, and then moved on.
Right.
And then 2 days later, I'm getting like 1,000 likes 2,000 likes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So I kept doing it. And then like within 2 weeks, like BuzzFeed reached out to me, Huffington Post, whatever Ashton Kutcher's magazine is called, A+, I think. And I started getting all these interviews. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I got shit on by half the internet where they're like, fuck you for making me a monster. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So yeah, that's how that started. I have a nursing degree. I did a lot of rotations in mental health facilities.
Yeah.
I personally battle with depression. I battle with anxiety. I battle with social anxiety severely, which is ironic being in a convention. But,
Right.
you know, if you ask most people here, this is where they feel normal.
Yeah,
Because they're
yeah.
like, you know, I don't feel like an outcast. I don't feel like an awkward person. I feel like I'm with my people. And
I feel like there's a positive, like,
there
levity
is.
here,
I mean,
you
you'll
know?
have like the negative assholes here and there, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it's a very family oriented.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these people who do the convention circuit, like they all know each other. Like,
Right.
They're always hanging out with each other. I'm not, but I like to sleep in my hotel.
Right.
But it just had a huge importance for me because people don't talk about it a lot. A lot of people, like they'll say like, oh, hey, I have AIDS or I have cancer. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Cool. You know, I hope you feel better. But if I say, hey, I have bipolar, you're like, oh, you're fucking crazy. Bye. And
Right.
they walk away. So we wanted to start becoming like a voice for those people. So like wearing, well, we don't have one of them here, but wearing like one of our designs so they feel like, okay, I'm telling the world that I have this, but it doesn't say it. So it gives them a little bit of strength. So
Talk about your clothing line some more.
it's a clothing line. We put artwork on shirts. No. It's a clothing line based out of Akron, Ohio. It's between me and my business partner, Mike. We wanted to kind of bring his streetwear fashion with my dark art together and kind of just make stuff that we like to wear.
Right.
And that's kind of, you know, two best friends. You know, we went with the name Any Means Necessary because we both had very hard lives. He grew up in a meth lab, you know, lived on the streets for a while.
Okay.
I grew up fucking food stamp, welfare poor, taking slices of bacon to school for lunch. But we made it work. And it's always been like that mentality of just whatever it takes to do it, do it. And we've been doing it for just as long as I've been doing Cyanide and Happiness. So it's been going on almost 10 years. And it's been going. It's been successful. We use the clothing platform to push our mental illness stuff as well. We were able to donate, I think, over $5,000 2 years ago to like mental health research.
Cool. Awesome. What is it? What lessons could somebody kind of pull from, you know, things that's happened in your life or, you know, your career? Like, what is about your story that's, you know, somebody can learn from?
Everything I did, do the fucking opposite of. Like, if you want to pursue art, just do it. I can't live without a safety net. I have to have my hands in a couple of different things.
Yeah.
Just in case one thing fails, I have another thing to support me. I got, you know, 2 kids, a wife, a house to pay for. So I can't have no income coming in. But I always tell people, like, if you want to pursue art, cool. Just realize that not everyone's going to be a successful artist. Like, that's the hardest thing to tell someone when they go, I want to be an artist like you, or I want to be a professional artist like you, and I look at their stuff and it looks like shit. Like, you can't tell them it looks like shit, but I always tell them, like, I can't promise you that you're going to have a career. I can't promise that. All I can say is if you put your effort into it and you have the audience, cool. But, I mean, becoming a professional artist is like becoming a professional NBA player, NFL player. And people are like, that's exaggerated. I'm like, that's the fucking truth. Not everyone's successful. Like, there's a lot of artists here, but not all of them are successful. You know, they're working other jobs or, you know, they're living off old careers that, you know, no one gives a shit about now. Not against them, but people move on super quick. It's just, it's a harsh, no safety net kind of job. Don't do it. Don't do it. Abort. Abort.
Right. I always like to close out my interviews on my podcast by asking the same question, and that is, who is somebody that's been a part of your life or career that I could realistically interview and they would have a great story, a great lesson to talk about?
Oh, let me think here. Are you coming to talk to me, sir? Hi. I am. I mean, that's all this right here. Yeah. What's up?
Can I get an autograph?
You sure can. What do you got something for me to sign?
Yeah. I got a box of Joking Hazard, and I had this card in it.
Did Why don't we have that card in there?
No idea.
Okay. What was the question?
No, who is somebody that's been a part of your life or career that I could realistically interview that
Him.
have great stories?
Him.
He's
Mike.
like, no.
Yeah. Honestly, he knows me more than anything, and he has a crazier life than I have. But he'd be the one to interview, honestly, because
Wait, what's his name?
Michael Nemitz. He's the co-owner of Any Means Necessary. But he'd be the one. I'd say interview Chris Wilson, but they're not really taking interviews. They're busy working on the game right now. So.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's who I say.
All right. Where can people go online to find out more information about your everything you're doing?
So you can find me at explosum.net or amnclothing.com, which is A, M as in Mary, N as in Nancy, clothing.com. Did I say that?
I don't know.
amnclothing.com. You can find us on Instagram at Any Means Necessary Clothing, Twitter, AMN_clothing. I'm Shawn Coss on everything. There you go.
All right, cool, man. Thank you for taking the time to interview.
You're welcome. Now go fuck yourself.
So that was my interview with Shawn Coss, recorded recently at Wizard World Columbus. Any more information, you can always just go to freshasthepodcast.com, and all the information about where you can find about him, it will be in the show notes for this podcast episode. Now on to the Fresh is the Word Fresh Pick of the Week. And this episode's pick is the comic book Max the Inebriated Rabbit, written and drawn by the Detroit-based artist Eric Gutierrez. In the 3 issues already released, we see Max dive into all the struggles of love and life, with an interesting band of degenerate friends and enemies. Even through all the drugs and booze Max consumes, he's still a jerk underneath. Max is like Roger the Rabbit, but much more sleazier, and he's the epitome of misery loves company. At the core of it all, Max is still lovable in a weird sense, and you can't help but kind of root for him in the end. You'll laugh at all of his idiocy and how he's able to make it out alive from all these pickles he's able to get himself into. I hear there's a new issue on its way pretty soon, and Max is trying to make an interesting turn of his life, so we'll see what happens with Max the Inebriated Rabbit. For more information on this comic, you can always go to facebook.com/Max the Inebriated Rabbit. All these will be linked up in the show notes for this episode on freshasthepodcast.com. So this is another episode in the books. Just want to remind you how you can support the podcast. You can always go to freshasthepodcast.com and just share any of the links on your social media. That'll definitely help out. And if you want to subscribe to Fresh is the Word, you can subscribe to Fresh is the Word on Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Google Play, and TuneIn. Just type in Fresh is the Word, and it should come up. And it would definitely help out, especially on Apple Podcasts, if you could leave a rating and a review. And if I do see it, I'll definitely read it on an upcoming episode. You can also follow me online at Twitter and Instagram at KellyOmegaFresh, and on Facebook at facebook.com/KFresh. And you can follow Fresh is the Word online on Twitter at FITW Podcast, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, on Facebook at facebook.com/FreshIsThePodcast, and on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/FreshIsTheWordPodcast. Definitely thank you for listening each week. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.